My siblings mocked me for inheriting Dad's junk gas station until they saw the $200 million secret, and I turned the tables in a way they never expected. I'm Jake, a 32-year-old male. I've worked at my dad's old gas station since I was a teenager. Dad passed away 3 months ago after a massive stroke. He was a tough son of a gun, a Vietnam vet who worked every day of his life until he was 75. My sisters, Olivia and Sophia, always thought I was wasting my life helping the old man run a failing business while getting my engineering degree at night. They both left our small town as soon as they could. Olivia, a 38-year-old female, became a hotshot corporate attorney in Chicago, and Sophia, a 35-year-old female, is a big investment banker in New York. They'd visit maybe once a year, usually at Christmas, and spend the whole time talking about their fancy apartments and vacation homes. I was the one who stayed, the one who helped Dad keep the books when his eyesight started going, the one who took over most of the mechanic work when his arthritis got too bad for him to hold a wrench, and the one who'd drive him to his doctor's appointments and make sure he took his meds. Was it the life I planned? Honestly, no. I had dreams of designing engines for NASCAR or Formula One, but life happens, you know. Mom died when I was in college, and someone had to look after the old man. My sisters sure as hell weren't going to do it. Anyway, Dad's will reading was last week, and holy cow, it did not go as expected. My sisters showed up in matching black designer outfits that probably cost more than I make in a month. The whole time, they were whispering about how they'd split Dad's savings and what they'd do with the lake cabin. The lawyer, an old dude who was Dad's fishing buddy, started reading. To my daughters, Olivia and Sophia, I leave the sum of $75,000 each. You should have seen their faces. Olivia's face froze mid-smirk. That's it? She blurted, blinking like she misheard. Then came the real shock. The lawyer barely looked up from the papers. To my son Jake, I leave my gas station business, all related property, structures, and contents therein, along with my dog, Baxter. Dead silence. Then Olivia snorted. The gas station? The one that looks like it should have been condemned in the 90s? They both kept saying how Dad clearly lost his mind toward the end, and how unfair it was that I manipulated him by sticking around. Then Sophia leaned against the counter, her expression all smooth business. Look, Jake, I know you think this place means something, but it's just land. It's a headache. The regulations alone could bury you, and I don't want to see you stuck here fighting a losing battle. Olivia chimed in, faux sympathetic. Dad was sentimental. We get it, but you're smart. You've always been smart. You don't have to struggle like he did. Let us help you. Sophia nodded. Take the 20 grand, get out while you can. No drama, no headaches. Yeah, right. The same sisters who couldn't be bothered to call Dad on his birthday were suddenly concerned about helping me. I'm going to be real. For a split second, I actually considered it. 20 grand wasn't life-changing money, but it was a ticket out. I could finally leave this dying town, get an apartment somewhere new, maybe even put my engineering degree to use for once. No more fighting with busted gas pumps. No more sleepless nights over bills, just freedom. But what they don't get is that while they were building their careers, I was the one helping Dad keep his dream alive, watching him work 18-hour days, learning everything about his business, and keeping him company after Mom died. The gas station might be worthless to them, but it was Dad's life. After the reading, I went back to Dad's, I guess my gas station. It's this old-school place with 2 pumps that barely work and a garage where we did repairs. The sign out front has been fading for years. Dad always talked about getting it repainted, but never got around to it. Baxter was waiting at the door like he always did for Dad. He's this 12-year-old golden retriever mix with a gray muzzle and bad hips. He looked at me, then looked behind me for Dad, then back at me with this confused expression that broke my heart. I knelt down and hugged him, and I swear we both knew exactly how the other felt. I found myself stuck with a rundown gas station that barely breaks even, a grieving old dog who follows me everywhere, and 2 sisters who suddenly want family meetings about my inheritance. I spent that week going through Dad's office at the station. Dad's office was a time capsule, every receipt, invoice, and property record from the last 40 years neatly filed away. At first it was just paperwork, but then I noticed certain documents had blue check marks or red dots, and a survey map in the back of a drawer had matching marks and numbers in Dad's sharp handwriting. He was trying to tell me something. That night, while Baxter snored under the desk, I found a hidden compartment in the drawers with an old photo album. It showed the gas station in its prime, Mom and Dad when they were young, and oddly, dozens of photos of the overgrown land behind the garage, some marked with X's in measurements. One photo stood out, Dad with a suited man, both holding scientific equipment. On the back, Dad had written, "Initial confirmation with Steve M. promising." Who the hell was Steve M., and what had Dad been confirming? The next morning, I went out to check it out. It's completely overgrown now, weeds taller than me, brambles, small trees, but I pushed through and found the remains of some kind of metal structure, almost completely covered in vines. No idea what it is, but Dad clearly thought it was important. I was about to investigate more when Olivia's BMW pulled up. I quickly headed back to the front, not wanting her to see what I was doing. Call me paranoid, but something tells me I should keep this to myself for now. "There you are," she said, looking at me like I was something stuck to her expensive shoe. "We need to discuss this ridiculous situation. Sophia and I have agreed to up our offer to $35,000 for this place." She gestured around like she was afraid to touch anything, her designer purse clutched tightly to her side. "I'm not interested in selling," I told her. She actually laughed. "Jake, be realistic. What are you going to do with a failing gas station? You can barely afford your apartment. Take the money and move on." "It's not about the money," I said, which only made her laugh harder. "It's always about the money," she replied. "You're just too naive to realize it." Before I could answer, Baxter came limping out from the garage, covered in dirt from digging somewhere out back. Olivia wrinkled her nose. "That dog needs to be put down. He's suffering. I've never wanted to punch my sister before, but there's a first time for everything." "Baxter is family," I said, keeping my voice level. "More family than some people around here, that hit a nerve." "We're trying to help you," she insisted. "This place is a money pit. Dad was sentimental about it, but you need to be practical." She left after I made it clear I wasn't selling, but not before saying they'd be back with a more formal approach. 2 days after Olivia's visit, I got served with legal papers. My loving sisters are contesting Dad's will, claiming he wasn't of sound mind and body when he wrote it. They're saying I manipulated him into changing his will because I was financially dependent on him. The truth is, Dad updated his will 5 years ago, right after his heart attack scare. I didn't even know about it until the reading. I called Dad's lawyer, who just sighed and said, "Your father warned me this might happen. He's going to help me fight it, but said I should be prepared for a nasty battle. Your sisters have resources," he warned me. "They can afford to drag this out." "Great, just what I need. A long legal battle I can't afford." A few days later, Sophia showed up out of nowhere with some guy in a suit talking big numbers. They were offering $100,000 for the property, way more than my sister's last offer, but still way too low if they suddenly wanted it this bad. "This is a good deal, Jake," Sophia said. "All business. The land's basically worthless. Cleaning up an old gas station site would cost more than it's worth." When I asked why they even cared about worthless land, the suit, who probably spent more on hair gel than I do on groceries, hit me with some corporate nonsense about community revitalization and long-term development. "We're investing in multiple properties in this area," he said. "All smooth. Your father's station is in a key location for our vision." "Yeah, right. This place is on a dead-end road nobody's cared about since they built the bypass 15 years ago. There's nothing here to revitalize." I asked Sophia how she even got mixed up with these guys, and she gave me that smug, "I know something you don't look. Let's just say I know people." Oh, great, because that's not ominous at all. After they left, I noticed a car parked down the street. Some guy with a camera was snapping pictures of the property, especially the overgrown area out back. The second he saw me watching, he took off. I wasn't just going to stand there like an idiot. I jumped into my truck and tailed him, keeping my distance, just close enough to see where he was headed. He took a winding route through town, classic. I know I'm being followed moves, but I wasn't new to this. He finally pulled into a strip mall and slipped into some nondescript office with frosted glass windows. No sign, no name, just vague enough to be suspicious. I parked across the street, snapped a photo of his license plate, and did some digging. Whoever these guys are, they've been quietly buying up half the town for the past year. This wasn't just about the gas station. Someone was planning something big. The next morning, I went back to the metal structure I found, pushed away more of the vines, and realized it's some kind of old drilling equipment. Not huge, but definitely professional. Dad never mentioned anything about drilling on the property. The equipment looked like it was used for taking core samples, the kind geologists use to test what's underground. Why would Dad need core samples? What was he looking for? I was knee-deep in files when I found a stack of certified letters from the State Department of Natural Resources, full of jargon but repeating phrases. One letter mentioned potential reserves but didn't specify what kind. Then I saw a name, Stephen Martinez. I wondered if it's the same Steve M. from Dad's old photos. Then I found something else, a key taped to the back of a filing cabinet with a note in Dad's handwriting, when the time comes. No idea what lock it fit. I tried every drawer, cabinet, and door, nothing. But things were getting weird. My sisters never cared about this place for 20 years. They called it Dad's money pit. Now they were suddenly bringing in developers and lawyers. The next morning I got a call from our useless mayor, Sophia's high school ex, the one she dumped for not being ambitious enough. We've received concerns about some code violations at the station. He said in that fake, polite voice politicians use when they're about to screw you over. Right. 3 months ago, this place was fine. But now that my sisters want it, it's suddenly an environmental disaster. I was starting to feel like I was in some low-budget conspiracy thriller with bad actors. At least I had Baxter. Found him digging obsessively out back today. Pulled him away, but he went right back. Maybe the old boy knew something I didn't. When I checked the area, I found a concrete slab buried under years of overgrowth. What the hell was a slab doing out here? And why was Baxter acting like he just discovered the meaning of life? I didn't have time to think about it, though, because the mayor's office sent their so-called inspection team. Total joke. They barely glanced at the gas station but spent over an hour poking around the back lot, taking soil samples and snapping pictures. When I asked what they were looking for, they fed me some vague line about routine environmental concerns. Right. After decades of not caring, they were suddenly deeply invested in the soil quality of a half-dead gas station. One of the inspectors, a younger guy who seemed uncomfortable with the whole thing, pulled me aside as they were leaving. "Look, I don't know what's going on here," he said quietly. "But this isn't a normal inspection. Someone's putting pressure on the department to find violations." Great. So the mayor is definitely involved in whatever my sisters are planning. I tried looking up that Stephen Martinez guy, but it's like he never existed. No business records, no LinkedIn, nothing. Just a ghost in the system. If he's still around, he'd be pushing 70. But something tells me he's not the kind of guy who wants to be found. While I'm at it, my sister Sophia called that same night, suddenly all concerned about my well-being. "Jake, I'm worried about you. The city's coming down hard. The inspectors are crawling all over the place. This is going to turn into a nightmare." She let that sink in before continuing. Real gentle now. "I don't want to see you go through that. So we talked to the buyers, and they're willing to go up to $150,000. That's a huge win for you, Jake." I stayed silent. She sighed. "Look, we both know this place isn't worth the hassle. Dad wouldn't have wanted you to sink your life into this." "And what exactly did Dad want?" I shot back. There was a long pause. "Just take the money, Jake. This isn't going to end well for you if you keep fighting." Was that a threat from my own sister? At that point, I was tearing through Dad's files like a madman and found a hidden compartment in his filing cabinet. Inside was a sealed envelope with coordinates written on it and a stack of technical documents from a company dated 1979. A bunch of geological jargon I don't understand, but I kept seeing phrases like high-grade deposits and economically significant. No mention of what exactly they were looking for, though. I plugged the coordinates into Google Maps, and guess what? They point to a spot about 50 yards behind the garage, right where that old drilling equipment is, and right where Baxter won't stop digging. Speaking of Baxter, the poor old guy is the only one keeping me sane through all this. He's been acting weird, though. Keeps whining and pawing at the safe in Dad's office. Dad never let anybody touch that safe, not even me. He always said it contained retirement plans. I tried every combination I could think of. Birthdays, anniversaries, addresses. Nothing works. I decided to try clearing more of that concrete slab Baxter found. After an hour of digging, I realized it's not just a random slab. It's the top of what looks like a bunker or underground structure. There's a seam that suggests it might be a door or hatch, but I couldn't find a way to open it. The following day, Olivia showed up again, this time with 2 lawyers. One of them handed me a thick document detailing all the ways the gas station is supposedly in violation of environmental regulations, building codes, and business licensing requirements. This is harassment, and you know it, I told her. She didn't even deny it. It's business, Jake. Everything has a price. Yours is just getting lower by the day. The lawyers started talking about potential fines and how the property could be seized to pay for remediation costs. What happened to you? I asked Olivia. We used to build forts together in the backyard. Now you're threatening me with lawyers. For a split second, I saw something like regret flicker across her face. Then it was gone, replaced by that cold attorney expression. Grow up, Jake. This is the real world. Dad babied you for too long. As they were leaving, I noticed Baxter had disappeared. Found him out back again, digging frantically at the edge of that concrete slab. When I pulled him away, I saw he'd uncovered what looks like a metal handle or latch of some kind, partially buried. I was about to check things out when my landlord called. Someone, I wonder who, filed an anonymous complaint saying I was running a business out of my apartment. I'm not. And now I've got 30 days to move out. My sisters were really pulling out all the stops to force my hand. I just sat there, staring at the wall. For the first time since all this started, I actually let myself wonder if maybe Olivia and Sophia were right. Maybe I was just some idiot clinging to a broken dream. Maybe Dad left me the station because he felt guilty, not because he thought I could actually handle it. I had no money, no backup plan, and now no place to live. Maybe I should just take the damn offer and walk away. But then Baxter whined, nudging at my hand like he could sense what I was thinking. His hips were bad, his muzzle graying, but he still sat next to me like he always had, like he believed I had this under control. If Dad believed in me enough to leave me all this, then maybe I needed to believe in myself too. So I spent the next 3 hours cracking open Dad's safe. Turns out the combination was the day he bought the gas station. Should have guessed that sooner. Inside, no cash, no gold bars, just a thick folder labeled property assets, a small box with more keys, and an old thumb drive. I felt like I was losing my mind. The folder was something, though, but instead of answers, it just gave me more questions. Turns out Dad didn't just own the gas station. He'd been buying up land around it for decades, nearly 40 acres in total. For what? A gas station that barely scraped by? It didn't make any sense. I sat there, flipping through the deeds, feeling this mix of frustration and disbelief. Why the hell didn't he ever tell me? Why keep this a secret if it was supposed to be my inheritance? I needed answers, and fast. I handed the old survey reports to a geologist, hoping he could make sense of them. He flipped through the pages, frowning. There's something here, he muttered, pointing at some chemical markers. I don't want to jump to conclusions, but these could be of something valuable. Like what? I asked. He hesitated. Hard to say without a full report, but this could be big. I wanted to scream. Every time I thought I was getting somewhere, I hit another wall. But sitting around wasn't going to get me anywhere, so I grabbed a shovel and went back to that metal hatch Baxter found. If Dad wasn't going to give me a straight answer, I'd dig until I found one myself. 3 hours in the dark, dirt flying everywhere, sweat pouring down my back. Every muscle in my body was screaming at me to stop, but I kept going. Finally, I uncovered the whole thing, an old access hatch leading to some kind of underground chamber or tunnel, and of course, it was locked tight with a giant rusted padlock. I sat back, breathing hard, staring at that hatch like it was mocking me. Dad spent years hiding whatever was down there, and now that I was finally close, it felt like he was still keeping me out. My frustration was boiling over. What the hell was so important that he went to these lengths to bury it? Then it hit me, that weird key I found taped to the back of the filing cabinet. I scrambled back to my truck, grabbed it, and ran back to the hatch, my hands shaking as I slid the key into the rusted padlock. It clicked open like it had been waiting for me all this time. I hesitated for just a second before pulling the hatch open. I grabbed the handle and pulled. Nothing. Years of rust had sealed it shut. Baxter whined behind me as I braced my foot against the frame and yanked with everything I had. Metal groaned, dust billowed up, and for a second I thought the whole thing was going to snap off in my hands. Then the seal broke, a rush of stale air hit me, and beneath it, a narrow set of concrete steps disappeared into darkness. My stomach twisted. This wasn't just some old storage room, this was deliberate. Dad built this to be hidden. Slowly, I made my way down, flashlight cutting through the dust-filled air. At the bottom was a small 8x10 room, cramped, cold, and lined with filing cabinets. Against the far wall sat an old desk with a battery-powered lamp still intact, like someone had just left it there. This wasn't just some forgotten space. This was Dad's secret office. The place was covered in dust, but everything was right where Dad left it. He must have built this underground room decades ago, but for what? What was so important that he needed to hide it? I wasn't ready for what I found. Filing cabinets packed with papers. It felt like stumbling onto something huge, but I had no idea what I was looking at. Then I found a newspaper clipping about lithium deposits being discovered in nearby states. Tucked inside was a note from Dad, confirmed presence. Now the waiting game begins. Waiting for what? For lithium to become valuable? For us kids to be old enough to understand what he was doing? One thing was clear, this wasn't some wild guess. Dad had spent years quietly buying up small parcels of land around the station, securing every mineral right he could. Some of the paperwork even showed second mortgages on our house. He wasn't just holding on to a failing gas station. This was his life's work. I pulled out a map showing every piece of land he'd bought, and it clicked. He had been building a perfect circle around something. Every purchase, every move, every sacrifice he made was leading to this. It made me feel guilty. All those years I thought he was just a stubborn old man refusing to let go of the past. Turns out, he was way ahead of the game. Then I found Mom's old journals. She knew everything. In one entry from 1992 she wrote, "Frank's playing the long game. The girls don't understand why we never take vacations or buy new cars. But someday this will all be worth it." She believed in him. She gave up so much for this, and she never even got to see it pay off. When she died in 2005, it was like Dad just stopped living for anything else. I sat there for a while, just staring at her handwriting, feeling like I was reading something I was never supposed to see. I grabbed some of the papers and headed out, but before I could even process what I'd found, Baxter started growling at the trees. When I looked up, I saw someone standing at the edge of the property. The second I yelled, they took off. The next morning, the hits kept coming. Dad's lawyer called. "Your sisters just filed an emergency injunction to stop you from damaging or altering the property while they contest the will." Too late for that, but I didn't mention the underground room. Then it got even weirder. A black SUV rolled up, and two guys in government-grade suits stepped out, looking like they walked straight out of a bad crime thriller. They flashed some vague credentials, talking in circles about resource development and land viability assessments. Real, official-sounding nonsense. I played dumb, but they didn't look convinced. They left a card and said they'd be in touch. Not even an hour later, Olivia called. "Those men weren't from any state agency, Jake. They worked for that guy I brought here. You need to be careful what you say, okay?" What was she actually trying to warn me? That's a first. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because we're still family," she said. "This is business, not personal. We're just trying to make sure Dad's discovery is properly managed." "What discovery?" I pushed. She went quiet for a second, then let it slip. "You really don't know, do you?" Then she hit me with it. "Ask yourself why a development company would offer $250,000 for a gas station on a dead-end road." Yeah, that number keeps going up. I didn't give it too much thought. I went back to the underground office. I had a feeling I hadn't found everything yet, and I was right. Hidden under a cabinet was a locked metal box with no key in sight. And on top of all that, Baxter's been acting weird, barely eating, pacing like he knows something's coming. Maybe he's just picking up on my stress, or maybe he knows more than I do. I took the box to a locksmith first thing in the morning. The guy barely even looked at me before cracking it open like it was nothing. Inside was a thick stack of documents, and right on top, a final geological report, way newer than anything else I'd found. And that's when everything really sank in. All those years of surveys, testing, and land deals, they weren't just guesses. The report confirmed what Dad must have known for decades. My heart pounded as I scanned the report. At first, it was just numbers and geology jargon I barely understood. Then I saw it. Lithium. The stuff they make batteries from. The stuff that powers everything from phones to electric cars. One of the most valuable resources on the planet right now. I blinked, then read it again. Confirmed high-grade lithium reserves. Estimated market value $200 million. My hands were shaking. This wasn't just something valuable. This wasn't some maybe or potential find. This was a gold mine buried under my feet. Dad knew. He always knew. And he spent his life making sure no one else could take it from us. But technology wasn't advanced enough then to be certain, or to extract it efficiently. So he spent decades quietly securing the mineral rights to the entire area, parcel by parcel, waiting for the right time. That drilling equipment I found? Early exploration tests? The underground room? Where he kept all this secret so nobody would try to take it from him before he had everything legally locked down. The box also contained documentation of a trust that established 5 years ago, putting the entire property and all mineral rights solely in my name, effective upon his death, completely separate from his will. That's why my sisters can contest the will all they want. It won't matter. The trust supersedes it. Dad made sure of that. Inside the box was a thick stack of documents and a USB drive. My hands were shaking as I plugged it into my laptop. A folder popped up, video files. The first one was from 1979. Dad, young and excited, standing by that drilling equipment when it was new. Just got the initial results back. He said, grinning, "If this pans out the way Steve thinks it will, this could change everything for our family." The most recent video was from just 6 months ago. Dad looked older, tired, but still sharp. He looks directly at the camera. "Jake, if you're watching this, then you figured it out. I always knew you would. You were the only one who understood that real value isn't always obvious. Your sisters wanted quick rewards. You understood patience and hard work. This is your inheritance. Not just what I found, but what I built around it. Don't let anyone take it from you." I must have watched that clip 20 times, tears streaming down my face. Baxter curled up next to me, his head on my lap, like he knew exactly what I was feeling. I called the lawyer who confirmed the trust is ironclad. He's known about the lithium all along, but was bound by attorney-client privilege. "Your father wanted you to discover this on your own," he explained. "He said you'd appreciate it more that way. He also worried that if he told you directly, your sisters might somehow find out before all the legal protections were in place." The old man was right. If he had just told me about the lithium, I probably would have blabbed to someone eventually, maybe even tried to reconcile with my sisters by telling them about it. Dad knew them better than I did, knew they'd try to take control. I finally got it. Why my sisters, who never cared about this place, suddenly wanted in. Why the mayor is digging up random code violations. They all know, or at least suspect, what's under this land. But here's what they don't know: the trust. They think they can push me into selling, but Dad made sure that wasn't an option. Legally, I have full control. As for how they even found out, the videos gave me my answer. Dad mentioned working with a mining engineer years ago. That guy now works for, surprise, surprise, one of the developers trying to get their hands on the property. He must have connected the dots after Dad passed and tipped off the wrong people. That's when my sisters suddenly realized the gas station they spent years calling a money pit was actually sitting on something valuable. Once I confirmed the lithium deposit and my legal ownership, I knew I had to handle this right. Selling out wasn't even an option. So, after that, I started my own company, named after Dad. The lawyer got me in touch with people in the mining industry, the kind of experts who could actually handle this without cutting me out of my own inheritance. I set it up so I'd keep 65% ownership while they handled the technical side. The best part? We're using the exact low-impact mining methods Dad had been researching for years. He wasn't just sitting on this, he was planning for it. And then, the second word got out. Everything went to hell. My sisters threw every legal argument they could at the trust, trying to break it. When that didn't work, they switched tactics, claiming they were entitled to a share as heirs. The judge literally laughed them out of court. That should have been the end of it. But of course it wasn't. That's when it got nasty. Someone tried to set fire to the gas station. Security stopped them just in time. My apartment got broken into twice. Then the local paper ran some hit piece about how lithium mining would destroy the environment. The article was full of dramatic claims and anonymous sources, but I know exactly who was behind it. And then I found out that someone even tried to steal Baxter, like actually broke into the security perimeter to kidnap my dog. Who even thinks of that? He's fine, by the way. Turns out, even at 12 years old, a 75-pound golden retriever doesn't go quietly when some idiot tries to grab him. Right after that, Olivia showed up at my apartment, crying, apologizing, saying she didn't understand Dad's vision. She claimed she had no clue about the break-ins or the attempted dog-napping. Maybe she was telling the truth, maybe not. Either way, she still tried to pull the same manipulative crap she always does. "We could run this company together, Jake," she said, all soft and sincere, just like Dad would have wanted. Except Dad, very specifically, did not want that. That's why he made sure they had no claim to any of it. Sophia took a different approach. At first, she blew up my phone with messages about family legacy and what Dad would have wanted. When that didn't work, she switched to threats, talking about going to the press with some dark family secrets about Dad, which is hilarious, considering the worst thing he ever did was swear at the TV during football games. Yeah, too little, too late. And now, the town that barely acknowledged I existed suddenly acts like I'm their golden boy. The mayor, the same guy who tried to shut me down, is now bragging about how he's been supporting local business development. The neighbors who never had a word for me, suddenly I'm getting invited to every town event. Funny how that works.